y'all, welcome back to another episode of Whip It Like Butter. Okay, so today's recipe is going to be a French toast casserole, and we're also going to go ahead and top this with a little streusel. And then we couldn't stop there. We have to take this over the top, and we're also going to add a powdered sugar glaze, y'all. Yes, on top of this casserole. Okay, so a good recipe that we have that you can pair with this casserole is for our egg bake. I'm gonna go ahead and link it above. So if you're doing a brunch or you just, you have breakfast, you're feeding quite a few people, if you have a big family, or you just want to do a little prepping for the week, these two recipes are good to pair together. So it's casserole and egg bake. Y'all go ahead and get the recipe for the egg bake above. But right now, let's go ahead and get into it. So I'm gonna show y'all how it's done. Let's go. We're using whole milk, baby. None of that skinny stuff. We need some eggs. All right, we're gonna need some cinnamon in this thing. We're gonna use French bread. All right, so we have our sugar over here. We're gonna use light brown. We're also going to use heavy cream and some vanilla extract as well. All right, so let's go ahead and get it popping. So we're gonna add all of our ingredients to this bowl besides the bread. So just go ahead and pour everything into the bowl. Y'all, a tip, if you're like setting everything out and you're not gonna cook right away, when using vanilla extract, always pour that into your dish last because it will start evaporating. Okay, so just here, we're gonna just go ahead and dump everything just like so. And after we had everything added to the bowl, you want to use a large bowl because we're going to add our bread into this bowl. So you want to go ahead and give it a whisk. You want to whisk so you have all the egg broken down and fully incorporated. If you want to do your scramble with like a fork before you put it in the bowl, if you know, because you see a little bit right here, you can do that. But just make sure that you have all the egg whisk into the mixture, and then we're going to go ahead and set that to the side, and we'll go ahead and get started on this bread. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and cut this in half just to make it easier, and we're going to go ahead and start breaking it down. So we're using this serrated knife. It makes it a lot easier to cut bread. So we're going to cut it like, kind of gauge it like 1 inch or so cuts, and then we're also going to cut it down even more than that because we want these to be little pieces of bread. So just cut, and we're gonna use all of this bread, y'all. We're making this. We're using a 9 by, I believe it's 9 by 13, 9 by 16 inch pan, just like the regular, size casserole dish, large casserole dish pan. And so we're going to need all of the bread for this recipe. And y'all see how I'm cutting it across right here. So they're not super small, but they're not super big. Just go with it. Okay, so you want to make sure all of that's cut up. We put it in this bowl, and then we're going to go ahead and add it to our other bowl. So I'm going to go ahead, since it's been sitting for, a few minutes while cutting the bread, give it a good whisk and make sure everything is nice and incorporated. Okay, and then we're going to go ahead and add the bread to the bowl. Now, you want to get like, a mixing spoon, or better yet, spatula, something of that nature, something where you can, delicately mix your bread into the wet mixture, okay? Because you don't want your bread falling apart, but you do want to make sure that it's completely soaked with the wet mixture, okay? So take your time, and if you like, you can get in there with your hands at the end. I found like, I did that, but it really wasn't needed. I just tossed it a little bit, but it really wasn't needed. Okay. So here we are. We're going to go ahead and butter our dish. And I just used a piece of butter. And we're going old school, y'all. We're just going to rub it with this butter. And y'all see I'm rubbing it like crazy. None of my stuff sticks because I make sure it's well coated, honey. Okay. So after we have it rubbed down with the butter, we're going to go ahead and add our bread to the casserole dish. And we're going to go ahead and cover this with saran wrap. And we're going to refrigerate it for about 30 minutes. Get everything nice and set it and stuff like that and ready to go for when we put it in the oven. But we got another step, so y'all hold tight. So you see I'm making here, nice and even as possible. And we're going to go ahead and put it in the refrigerator. Okay, so here we have flour, light brown sugar, we have cinnamon and salt, and we have butter because, we got to do things over the top a little bit sometimes. So we're going to go ahead and make a streusel for the top of our French toast, y'all, because we're not going to need any syrup for this recipe. It's going to be nice and sweet, so you're nice and moist with this butter and all this stuff we put in here, so we're going to be good. So we're just gonna take our knife and we're gonna go ahead and cube our butter. So you want to, the butter doesn't need to be room temperature. You need to take it out of the refrigerator and be ready to start cutting it. So we have in little small cubes like this, okay? So we're gonna cut our butter into our other ingredients. So go ahead and add your butter to the dish, your bowl. So once you have all your butter added into your dish, you can go ahead and just dump your other ingredients right in here into this bowl. And then you can grab a fork and you can go ahead and give everything, just toss everything together so you have your butter starting to incorporate into the mixture. Now I go in between using a fork and a pastry cutter. Me and the pastry cutter have a love-hate relationship, but I like to use it. So you can use your pastry cutter or if you don't have a pastry cutter, a fork is fine. You just want to make sure that you press the butter into your dry mixture, and as you can see it's starting to clump. That's what we want it to do. You just want it to keep cutting and cutting and cutting until you have less dry mixture and more clumps. Now once you get to the end, I'm going to show you before we go ahead and cover this and put it in the refrigerator, because this didn't take that long to make. So I put it in the refrigerator while the casserole was still setting in. So as you can see, as I go, it's clumping, it's clumping, it's clumping. Okay, but I went in there and I got in there with my hands at the end, and I got a big chunk and I pressed it together to help it form it and make this crumble. And I'm showing you right here, just like that. You see that? And then when you break it apart, you see how the butter is all nice and into the mixture. It makes it a whole lot easier. So sometimes you got to get in there with your hands. You can't always, just rely on the tool. Okay, now our streusel is ready to go ahead and go into the refrigerator until our casserole is ready to come out of the refrigerator. Okay, so here we are. We're taking our saran wrap off of our the French toasted bread that we prepared. And then we're going to go ahead and we're going to add the streusel right on top of here. And like I said, we got this butter in here. So yeah, it's going to add, even more moisture to our bread. So I'm just breaking this up a little bit. Since it was in the refrigerator, it had a little bit of time to set. Okay, and then we're just going to sprinkle this over our bread nice and even as possible. And like I said, that butter adds some extra flavor to this bread, okay, y'all? And so once you have your streusel over your bread nice and even, we're going to place this in the oven and we're going to bake it for 45 minutes. Now you want to check on it at the 30-minute mark and make sure it's nice and getting a nice good cook on it, because once it starts browning around the edges, it's ready to take out of the oven. So you may not have to cook it for 45 minutes, just depending on how your oven cooks. So we have it out of the oven. You can see a little bit that it's nice and brown around the edges. I'm pressing it so y'all can see the buoyancy. It's not hard, but it's not soggy, and that's what you want. Okay, so we have some powdered sugar. We have some powdered sugar, milk, and we have some vanilla right here. So we're going to add our powdered sugar into the bowl, and then we add in our vanilla because we're going to make this glaze, y'all. Okay, so we added our milk a little bit at a time. So I ended up using all the milk, but you can add a little bit at a time just to make sure that you get the right consistency for your powdered sugar. So you see, I start by putting a little bit, and I just stir and stir and stir, and you see how it's coming together. Okay, so add a little bit more milk, and then yeah, I want it just like that, not too loose and not too thick. Yeah. Okay, and so once you're done with that, we're gonna go ahead and I just did a little extra dusting here, and then I do a little extra dusting after the streusel. I got to be extra sometimes. Then we're going to go ahead and spread our glaze over our French toast casserole. Now, you can spread it over here any way you like. I don't want it to just be like, poured on top like that. So I'm just spreading it like so. You can definitely pour it and kind of make like, like toasted strudels are. Kind of like it's just spread on top of your French toast. However you like, just get that thing popping and put that over there. Because like I said, you're not going to need any syrup. So that glaze adds a little extraness, a little pop, to your French toast casserole. And after you've done that, like I said, I'm going to dust it with powdered sugar again, just for the picture, so the powdered sugar is even on top of here. And yeah, once you've done that, you're ready to serve it, y'all. Now, y'all stay tuned. We're getting ready to get into this taste test. All right, let's go. All right, y'all ready for this taste test? Let's go ahead and get into this. Yeah. Get that. Alright, let me show you the other sides as well. Yep. Okay, so let's go ahead and have a bite, shall we? Now I'm gonna do this with no syrup. You know, that's the whole point why we have the powdered sugar glaze and all that. So it's a one and done, but it's no problem being extra, but let's see first. Honey, no syrup needed. No syrup needed at all. Is that nice and moist? Okay, so go ahead and get the recipe in the description box below. Subscribe, like, and don't be stingy, y'all. Make sure y'all share. We'll catch y'all next time. Holla!